Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today I have a knife review, and this is one that I should have done a long time ago. This is a really sweet, cool knife with a pretty unique feature to it that is starting to make its way onto other models. And I don't know a ton about this, but I have used it. I have carried it at work. And as far as if it was just a standard basic knife, I'd really like it. But basically, this is the CRKT HVAS or HVAS knife. So the CRKT HVAS knife, awesome knife. So I'll go over the specs, and we can get into it. So the overall length is 7.85 inches long. The blade length is 3.3 inches long. The blade width is 1.12 inches in width, and the blade thickness is 0.13 inches. The overall weight is 3.79 ounces. The handle width is 1.25 inches thick, and then the handle length is 4.5 inches long. And the handle thickness is 0.49 inches thick. Sorry. Other than that, the blade steel on this is the 1.4116 blade steel, which I'm not too familiar with, and I haven't really been able to pinpoint what I find it similar to. But I know there's other videos out there that I think it's similar to more of like a 12C28N type or a Sandvik steel, but either way, it's worked fine for this knife. And yeah, so let's get into it. I always like to start with the blade because that's what makes it a knife. The blade shape is pretty utilitarian, nice standard blade profile. Has a little swedge up top there. It has a fairly high hollow grind, which makes this a very slicey knife. And it's a plain edge blade with a good amount of belly, and it comes to a fairly fine point. So if you want to do some detailed point cuts, that is definitely an option. On the actual blade, you see the CRKT logo, and then on the opposite side you have HVAS. I don't know if my camera will pick it up because of the lighting, but there we go. It has HVAS, Voxnaes design, patent pending, blah blah blah. So this is a Voxnaes design, really cool, very utilitarian. Really like the overall profile of the blade. Kind of reminds me of a Woodsman outdoors knife as well. And yeah, the other cool thing it has, instead of a standard hole or a D-hole, it's this kind of oblonged shape here, almost like a pear or whatever, but it functions well and it gives the knife a cool little look. Definitely accessible either left or right-handed, so for you left or right-handers or lefties, it's definitely an option. There's no jimping up top on the spine of the blade, and I did notice that the actual spine is fairly sharp, specifically on one side, so I don't know if they didn't necessarily finish it enough, but anytime you find that sharper spot on a knife, you should be able to throw some sparks. So for, once again, outdoor purposes and survival or backpacking, well, actually here, I'll just do it this way, I'm right-handed. So there we go, you can throw sparks with this. Probably gunked up the blade now. So yeah, really cool. So now, as far as the cutting edge and the blade and everything, there's nothing terribly special about it. There's a bit of a finger choil ricasso there. You can kind of choke up in there, but it's fairly small, so I wouldn't recommend it. But the cool thing is in this design. Now when I ordered this, I got this from Blade HQ, and it came with this cool mat, which is essentially a glorified mouse pad. Has like that neoprene material, but really cool. And it talks about the field strip technology. And this is my first knife to ever have the field strip technology. And it basically works on a mechanism that allows you to take apart the knife without any tools. So no screwdrivers or torque bits. You can just use your hands. And you have the pivot. There's a locking mechanism here, a lever, and then there's a scroll wheel on the bottom, and you're going to undo the locking mechanism, undo the scroll wheel, the blade comes apart, and then you just kind of reverse order everything and it goes back together. So it's pretty neat that this came with that. So when I decide to work on knives or clean stuff up, I can use that. So let's test it out. So you can either do it closed or open. I think they recommend it closed. So I just flip this switch here, and then I'm undoing the wheel at the back, and voila, comes out. So if I was, cutting up some meat or something and it got gunked up in there, I should be able to just take this apart and clean it out. Now I kind of just leave some of these other pieces in here. The scroll wheel doesn't really come out. I mean, obviously all these pieces you can kind of pry out, but I'll leave the liner lock side in. The one thing I'd be cautious about is the actual washers, because I have had the washers pop off on accident or on purpose. I don't know. They come out every once in a while, so just be mindful of that. Other than that, it basically has this kind of bolt head. I might have gotten too close there, but it goes on, and then when you flip the switch, it kind of locks around that, and that keeps it in place. So now that I took it apart, you can wipe down the blade, maybe put some oil, whatever, clean it off, and then you just put it back on. And here, like I said, we'll do it closed. Put the knife in, got a little rust there. Put it back on. Now you're going to want to try to work this out so that you can get that scroll wheel screwing in. And that's probably the hardest part, is just getting that scroll wheel in the right way. Then you start screwing that down. And boom. Kind of press on the pivot here and flip it open, and then it's good as new. It's like crazy how easy that is. And I will say, honestly, you just saw the washers. They're nylon washers. I will say, for nylon washers, this is the smoothest opening nylon washer knife I've ever had. And I don't know if it's the weight of the blade and where the pivot is and the geometry, but I'm not kidding you. Like, this thing is just smooth. Full finger grip, deep carry pocket clip, tip up only, left or right side. Pretty simple, but works really well. I like that the hardware is actually recessed in, so it makes it a really good carrying pocket. And honestly, I love this as far as just a utility blade. All-purpose camp work knife. Definitely one that I would consider backpacking with, especially hunting too, or fishing if you're going to fillet fish or whatnot. So really excellent knife. So let's compare it to some knives real quick. You got the Benchmade Bug Out, and we'll just go to where the handle meets the blade there. We'll also throw in a mini grip, and throw in a Skyline. Alright, so as you can see, all fairly similar. It is a little bit longer of a blade, so 3 1/3 inches of the blade, so it's just over that 1/4 inch mark. More similar to like the Skyline. Handle wise, obviously longer, has bigger blade. So The other thing is I like the thickness of the tang, which is really nice. So the blade thickness and handle is thicker than the bug out. Blade thickness and handle, I think the blade is slightly thicker than the Griptilian, but very nice. And then of course thicker than the Skyline. So as always, our last test is the ugly brown glove test, testing the knife for grip and deployment with a clumsy cloth glove. Grip wise, there is kind of this fairly minute matted texture to it. It does provide plenty of grip, especially with the bare hand. Cloth hand, you can definitely feel it, and it's definitely better than like an anodized aluminum. So grip is fine. With that kind of finger choil there, I would have liked to see just a little bit of jimping on here because it's fairly smooth up top. But other than that, because the contouring of the handle, you can actually get a pretty decent grip. As far as opening and deploying, the liner lock's easy enough to get open, and that hole, that awkward shaped hole, is big enough for thumb flicks and a spider flick. So definitely a winner. Definitely passes. I'd give this one a B+. Good job, ugly brown glove test, B+. Alright guys, so there you have it. This is the CRKT HVAS. Highly recommend this knife, especially if you want to test out this field strip technology. I'll leave links in the description below for up-to-date pricing, as well as I'll try to include any links in the upper right hand corner to any of the other knives. So yeah, awesome knife for the price. I think at the time of this video, or at least when I picked it up, it was around $60 or $70. I think the price has dropped slightly since then, so but totally worth it. And yeah, good stuff, CRKT. Alright guys, so like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit that subscribe button down there, and I'll see you outside. Thank you guys.